Welcome to the deep dive. Come on in, get comfortable. I need to set the scene for you right up front.
Oh yeah, you definitely do.
Because if you were sitting here in the studio with us, you would notice that I am wearing a deeply ridiculous, thrifted metallic silver puffer jacket.
It is quite the jacket. It's giving very much low-budget sci-fi.
Exactly. I feel like an extra in like a 1990s music video set on the moon.
Right.
But the wardrobe choice is totally intentional today.
Right.
Because today we are taking a very specific kind of trip. We are traveling into the future, but specifically the future as we imagined it in the past.
Which is the exact aesthetic we need for this.
Yeah.
Because the mission for today's deep dive is to unpack this profoundly weird psychological phenomenon we have, right? Like our collective bizarre fantasies about what the modern world was actually supposed to look like.
Yeah. Think back to when we were kids. Everyone just assumed that by the time we hit 2024 or 2030, our daily reality would essentially be a pure sci-fi movie. We expected aliens, we expected high-tech gadgets everywhere. We fully expected a landscape entirely divorced from the world we actually live in today.
It sets up the core of what we're looking at today. We want to look at those predictions, the strange, funny, cool, and honestly, sometimes really scary ideas we held about tomorrow.
Yeah, laying those childhood dreams right next to the, sometimes mundane, sometimes incredible reality we actually live in.
What's interesting isn't just that we were wrong, it's how we were wrong.
Right.
Like we predicted these massive mechanical shifts in how we manipulate the physical world, but what we actually got were massive digital shifts.
So to you listening right now, try to pinpoint your specific #1 childhood fantasy about today. What was the piece of tech you were absolutely convinced would be standard issue? Was it a crazy gadget? Was it a new way to travel?
Hold on to that thought.
Yeah, hold on to it. Okay, let's unpack this. Because any conversation about retrofuturism has to start with the holy grail of physical transport.
The flying car.
Flying car. I mean, it is the ultimate sci-fi dream.
It is the perfect baseline for this discussion, honestly. It represents the ultimate intersection of human ambition and just a complete disregard for physics.
And urban planning.
Yeah.
The sources highlight this brilliantly. The whole dream of the flying car was about escaping the nightmare of the commute.
Right.
You wake up, walk out to your driveway, and instead of merging onto a congested interstate, you just lift off.
You commute like a bird.
Exactly. The
Yeah.
vision was all about sky highways, completely unimpeded, erasing traffic jams forever.
But let's look at the mechanics of why that never materialized. And, frankly, why it's a terrible idea.
Please.
The concept of the flying car completely ignores energy density and aerodynamics. To lift a heavy metal box vertically off the ground requires an immense amount of thrust. We're talking about VTOL technology, vertical takeoff and landing.
Which we do have, technically. I mean, helicopters exist.
Helicopters exist, yeah. But they are incredibly loud, incredibly expensive, and you need a highly trained pilot.
Right.
The fantasy of the flying car assumed we would democratize VTOL tech so that, the average tired commuter could operate one.
Which is terrifying.
It is. And from a physics standpoint, a vehicle designed to both drive on a road and fly in the air means it does neither thing efficiently. You end up with a terrible car and a terrible airplane.
And the battery density issue is huge here, too. If we're talking about electric flying cars, to avoid turning the city into a smog cloud, our current lithium-ion batteries just don't have the energy density.
Not even close.
Jet fuel is super energy dense. Batteries are heavy. The more batteries you add to get more range, the heavier the vehicle gets, which requires more lift, which drains the battery faster. It's just a vicious cycle.
And beyond the physics, there's the logistical nightmare. Imagine the FAA trying to regulate three-dimensional traffic for millions of individual commuters.
We have enough trouble keeping cars in two-dimensional lanes.
Exactly. Adding a Z-axis to the daily commute invites a level of catastrophic failure that urban planners genuinely shudder at.
Here's where the contrast gets genuinely funny, though. We dreamed of conquering the skies with personal anti-gravity vehicles. But what was the actual urban transport revolution we got over the last decade?
Right. Instead of soaring over cities,
We got electric scooters.
the micromobility revolution.
Yeah.
It's such a funny, slightly underwhelming contrast.
We wanted to soar over skyscrapers, and reality handed us a piece of plywood with a battery attached that we ride in the bike lane at 15 miles an hour.
It sounds underwhelming, but there's a certain brilliance to it. The scooter actually solves the problem the flying car was meant to solve.
The last mile transit issue.
Yes, it bypasses gridlock. But it does so by scaling down the friction, rather than scaling up the technology into the sky.
Which is much more elegant, less cinematic, sure, but it works. Which actually brings us to another solitary transport fantasy from the sources, the jetpack.
Oh man, the jetpack.
It's undeniably cool. You strap a rocket engine to your back like a backpack, hit a button, and you are literally Superman.
It's a fascinating case study in human hubris. Because while a jetpack sounds incredibly cool in theory, let's look at the reality. The thrust-to-weight ratio required for a human being to fly via a jetpack is staggering.
You're turning a human body into a missile fuselage.
Which we are biologically not designed for. Most actual functioning jetpacks burn through their entire fuel supply in about 30 to 45 seconds.
That is useless for a commute.
Right. To carry enough fuel for a 20-minute flight to the office, the weight of the fuel would be so immense that the jetpack couldn't even lift itself.
You'd need a jetpack the size of a minivan.
Exactly. And imagine the noise. Jet turbines operate at over 120 decibels. A city would sound like an active aircraft carrier deck.
And the exhaust, you're blasting superheated gases downwards. You'd be melting asphalt and completely incinerating anyone walking below you.
What's fascinating here is how the lack of this technology might actually be a blessing.
Oh, absolutely.
As the source notes, that scenario would be a complete disaster. The future is much safer, without thousands of regular people flying around with literal rockets strapped to their backs.
Fender benders are bad enough in a grocery store parking lot. Imagine that at 200 feet in the air without a parachute.
May thank you.
So our transport fantasies were all about overpowering gravity. But let's shift gears from how we travel to how we imagine the interior of our lives.
Domestic living.
Yes. The fantasies were just as ambitious, and they mostly centered around totally eliminating chores. The ultimate dream here was the robot butler.
Ah, the shiny metal servant. Let's call him Bob.
I love Bob. The classic mid-century fantasy was that every household would have a Bob, a fully autonomous bipedal robot who would cook a 3-course dinner, iron your clothes, and do your kids' homework.
We basically projected our desire for a servant class onto technology. But the engineering reality of Bob runs directly into Moravec's paradox.
Right. Explain Moravec's paradox for the listener because it's super important here.
Basically, Moravec's paradox observes that high-level reasoning requires very little computation, but low-level sensor-motor skills require enormous computation.
So the hard stuff is easy and the easy stuff is hard.
Exactly. It's relatively easy to program a computer to beat a human grandmaster at chess. But it is incredibly difficult to program a robot to perceive a towel, understand its shape, fold it, and place it on a shelf.
Because folding a towel requires interacting with the unpredictable physical world.
Chess is a closed system with strict rules. A living room is open and full of chaos. Humans take fine motor skills for granted.
Right. Cracking an egg requires crazy pressure sensitivity that we do without thinking.
For a machine, not crushing that egg is a monumental task.
Which perfectly explains the current technological equivalent we actually got. We didn't get a bipedal robot that cooks a steak. We got the robot vacuum.
The plastic disc that bumps into your coffee table.
Hey, I love my robot vacuum. It cleans the floor while I'm at work.
It's a genuine achievement. They use SLAM technology, simultaneous localization, and mapping. It's brilliant.
But there's a humorous disappointment there. We wanted a conversational companion to make us a souffle, and we got an autonomous broom.
It absolutely cannot cook you a steak.
Not even close. But speaking of engineering nightmares, let's look at the biggest fantasy of all. The holy grail of skipping the hard parts of life. Teleportation.
Instant spatial translation. Beam me up.
Yes. The appeal is so obvious. Racing 12-hour flights, completely eliminating jet lag. You just say the word, and in a blink, you're sitting on a beach in Hawaii.
But scientists consider this incredibly difficult, if not entirely impossible physically.
The data requirements alone.
They're terrifying. The human body consists of roughly 37 trillion cells. To perfectly scan, destroy, transmit, and perfectly reassemble every atom.
Bearing in mind the Heisenberg uncertainty principle.
Right, you can't simultaneously know the exact position and momentum of a particle, so the data required would exceed the storage capacity of every hard drive on Earth millions of times over.
And the energy required to convert mass to pure energy.
Thousands of megatons of TNT. A slight glitch in the Wi-Fi and you detonate a thermonuclear weapon or you reassemble someone with their lungs on the outside.
Okay, so physical teleportation is magic. But here's where it gets really interesting. We kind of did solve the problem.
We did. just differently. We solved it with Zoom calls.
Telepresence. We basically figured out how to teleport our faces around the globe instantly.
I'd argue it's a far more elegant solution. Why do you need your physical mass, your bones and organs in Tokyo for a 9 a.m. meeting?
You don't.
You only need your ideas, your voice, and your expressions. We teleport our consciousness simply by moving photons and data instead of moving protons and mass.
It's instant global presence. Your body stays put, but your digital ghost is interacting in real time.
We bypassed physical limitations by building a digital universe on top of the real one.
Which is amazing for business, but it totally fails for a vacation. I can teleport my face to Hawaii, but I can't feel the sun or smell the salt water.
Or taste the food.
Exactly, which is the perfect segue into one of the most bizarre concepts from the source material: meal pills.
The dystopian dinner.
This is such a weird concept to me. The idea was a single, small pill that contained all the flavors, calories, and fullness of a 3-course dinner, completely eliminating cooking or washing dishes.
The total optimization of human biology.
First of all, the science on this is impossible, right?
It breaks the laws of thermodynamics.
Yeah.
You can't compress calories indefinitely. Fat is our most calorically dense macronutrient at 9 calories per gram.
So to get a standard daily intake from pure fat,
You'd have to swallow roughly 220 grams of pure fat. That's not a convenient little pill. That's the equivalent of eating 2 entire sticks of butter. The mass has to come from somewhere.
but even ignoring the physics, the host and expert in the source material completely reject this idea on behalf of humanity.
Oh, total.
It's a total nightmare for food lovers. People want to actually taste and chew their pizza.
We don't just eat for fuel. We eat for pleasure. It's the cornerstone of human culture.
Swallowing a pill that just artificially tastes like pepperoni misses the entire point of a meal.
What this reveals about human nature is fascinating. We thought we wanted total convenience, but we actually crave the real sensory experience of food. We assumed all labor was bad and all efficiency was good.
But the friction of chopping vegetables or chewing a good meal is good friction.
Exactly. Though we do have a modern equivalent for when we just need fuel.
Right, meal replacement shakes.
Soylent, Huel, things like that. For a busy Tuesday lunch, people do want frictionless eating.
So we rejected the meal pill for leisure, but we kind of embraced it for labor.
It's a very nuanced split.
Let's pivot from a fantasy we avoided to one that's actually bordering on reality right now. Space tourism.
This is where the retro future and our present timeline actually start converging.
The idea from the sources was going to the moon for a weekend vacation.
And this isn't just a dream anymore. Very rich people are actually taking trips into space right now.
It's just billionaires at the moment. But the infrastructure is being built.
Leaving the gravity well will always be incredibly resource intensive, but the ambition is absolutely there.
The sources even speculate that in 50 years, people might be broadcasting media live from Mars.
Live is doing a lot of heavy lifting in that sentence.
Oh, because of the speed of light.
Right. A radio signal takes between 3 and 22 minutes to reach Earth from Mars, depending on orbit.
So if we were doing this podcast,
This deep dive.
right, this deep dive from Mars, there would be a 44-minute pause between sentences.
It wouldn't make for great audio, but it emphasizes the sheer scale of the universe. We can conquer distance with data on Earth, but we are still bound by the speed limit of the cosmos.
It's a really long commute. We dreamed of casually hopping between planets, but the universe is vast and deeply hostile.
Which brings us back to the core theme. Our fantasies were aggressively focused on colonizing the physical world.
Flying cars for the sky, teleportation to erase distance.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the overarching takeaway is that the future is wildly unpredictable.
Unpredictable, but it follows the path of least resistance.
Yes, manipulating the physical world is hard. Manipulating electrons and data is a path of low resistance.
We didn't get our flying cars or shiny robot butlers.
But we got smartphones in our pockets that can do almost anything. A piece of magic that old sci-fi barely saw coming.
We walk around with supercomputers that translate languages and access all human knowledge instantly. The real future turned out to be stranger and more nuanced than our childhood fantasies.
It's a beautiful irony. We mastered bits instead of atoms.
So to you, the listener, I want to say this. Whether these fantasies come true or not, the act of dreaming is what drives us forward.
It's a fun mental exercise to just use the future tense.
Yeah, confidently predicting things that may or may not happen shapes our trajectory. So I want to leave you with one final provocative thought.
Lay it on them.
If all of our childhood fantasies were focused on physical things, flying, eating, cleaning, What kind of invisible digital magic are we completely failing to predict for the year 2050?
Well, that's a great question.
Right. What is the technology of the next generation that we can't even conceptualize because we're too busy staring at our screens?
The future's always adjacent to where we are looking.
It really is. Thank you so much for traveling through time with us on this deep dive. Keep questioning your assumptions, keep dreaming, and we'll catch you next time. Take care.